Okay, well, that is good to know. Thank you, Andrew Starr. I'm going to give you guys a few moments here for this to get connected. And okay, there, looks like it is connecting through again. I changed a couple settings. I had it set as at ultra low latency, so there would be the least delay possible between when I talk and when you guys hear it. I changed it from ultra low latency to just low latency. Hopefully that will help. And ding the bell. Yes, ding the bell. I can't ding it because Eastwood was quite an adventure to get to bed tonight, and last thing I want to do is wake him up. It's still telling me that skipped frames are being detected, but if everything is showing up smoothly on the replay, as Andrew Starr said, then I am just going to jam with it. Hopefully it'll get itself cleared out on its own, and if it doesn't, then I'll change some more stuff before we do the next stream. All right. So, appreciate your guys' help with that. Oh, let me real quick. I got to do this because this is how I get paid. This is how I pay the bills. So, send a tip via Streamlabs. Drop the link in the chat here, and then I will pin it. And of course, every time you guys send a tip via Streamlabs or Super Chat, then we get to laugh. All right, let's keep it going. I'll have to splice these together afterwards for the audio for the podcast. I just like Pete Hegseth, man. I don't nearly need to get much deeper than that. I just like Pete Hegseth, and I love the image of Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, and I love seeing what it does to the so-called war fighters. My actual my military bros, I see how he gets them excited, and this is exactly the sort of thing that we need to hear from the Secretary of Defense.
No more pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that shit.
We're done with that shit. Very, what is he, Gen X, millennial? Somewhere in there? Doing the performative profanity? This is an appropriate use of it. I am down with it. Slutty milk. Yes, sir. No more they, them, sir. This is an administration unlike any other. Now, we got some bad news. We need to say a prayer for the lead singer of Three Doors Down. All children of the 90s and 2000s now, you have something to add to your prayer requests.
Hey everybody, it's Brad from Three Doors Down. I hope you're having a great day today. Got some not so good news for you today. And so I'd been sick a couple of weeks ago and then went to the hospital and got checked out and actually got the diagnosis that I had a clear cell renal carcinoma that had metastasized into my lungs, and that's it's stage 4, and that's not real good. But you know what? We serve a mighty God, and He can overcome anything. So I have no fear. I really, sincerely am not scared of it at all. But it is gonna force us to cancel our tour this summer. And we're sorry for that. And I'd love for you to lift me up in prayer every chance you get. And I think it's time for me to maybe go listen to Not My Time a little bit, right? Thank you guys so much. God loves you. We love you. See you.
Prayers up for an icon of my childhood, Brad Arnold. Yes, Phil, I had the exact same thought. I think he's like 46. He's a young dude, and I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard him talk. I don't know if there's I don't know how advanced whatever the problems are. He doesn't sound very good. So yeah, prayers up for Brad Arnold. Here's an update on the India-Pakistan war, beyond the one that I don't know, Sam, what was it, like Samus Rami Hidar was one of their fighter pilots. uh, he can't keep getting away with it. But first clear footage of India bombing Pakistan from Clash Report. And a giant pile of dung was incinerated. Now, I had the exact same thought when I saw this video as mRNA Goyim Exploder. What a name. He says, are those niggas literally just putzing around in the dead of night nonstop? Do they ever stop milling about? For fuck's sake, go home. They don't have a home to go to. They just wander. They just putz around out in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night. They're all just ho-humming about. And the comments in here, I was crying reading these earlier. They have a day and night shift because the buildings are so full. He says, two separate countries of billions of people driving scooters through the desert all night, going nowhere. How the fuck do these places even operate? These people are not sentient, dog. Here's the thing is these places do not operate. That's kind of the thing. This guy says they all have FOMO, that a gang rape could happen without them. The search for Bob's and Vagine never ends. Apple gift cards are known to wander in the night. Bro, it's like noon in America then. They got calls to make. Yeah, and then nobody screamed or anything when the bomb went off. They all just stared at it. They're like... behaviorally, it's like I just watched a bunch of gorillas or something. Even the gorillas probably would have hooted and hollered more than that. They just kind of... Oh... No AC at home. They're like Sims characters. Anyways, that's been your India-Pakistan war update. This is like in 2025. I think it's easy to not appreciate just how much things have changed. Here we have CBS News talking about the selection of a new pope, and I thought that 2025 was going to be a wild year. I did not have something like this. Each day we just get some new story that's just like a grab bag of what do you call it, like Mad Libs. Just stick a bunch of random things together, and there's a headline for you. Listen to this.
One thing to understand is that all of that takes time. You know, we imagine in the conclave that there's all this charged political debate going on. No, inside the Sistine Chapel itself, virtually the entire time that the cardinals are inside is given over to the ritual of the balloting. Each ballot takes about an hour and a half, and with this extraordinary number of electors, it'll probably even take a little longer.
So they sit the whole time? They don't stand up and
most of them will tell you that while that's going on, they're sitting reading their breviary. That's a book of prayers that clergy have, or praying a rosary, or doing the one thing we know they're not doing is checking Instagram, because their devices have all been confiscated.
I believe the kids call it raw dogging it if you're going to go through a long period of time with no electronic device.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, they're of a certain age, so they might be used to
I just wanted to...
That guy definitely does not know the origin of the phrase raw dogging, or I suspect that he would not in his role as a CBS News anchor talking about the selection of a new pope would not be bringing up raw dogging. This is magical. We live in a magical time. They don't, these people, they in their own minds they're the pinnacle of their profession. And honestly, they kind of are at the pinnacle of their profession. The great news anchors, you know, they come in, they're like, they've heard stories of Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite, and I'm here to live out my career as a great American journalist, letting the people know the truth, speaking truth to power, asking the tough questions. And, you know, he has some kids, so he's heard the phrase. The phrase made it out among the youths. And so he'd heard the phrase at some point, but he has no idea the origin of it. Here's the great merging together of all the cultures. Once upon a time, you would have had the adults culture and you'd have had the children's culture. And here you have the children's culture penetrating its way into the adults culture, and they have no idea what they're saying. It's just absolutely delicious. Raw dogging the papal conclave. Douglas Archer on Twitter says, Catholics are pretty pro raw dogging as far as I know. Good point. That's a very good point. There's nothing more Catholic than raw dogging. All right, guys. We have got another Giga Jew, Stephen Miller masterpiece. Sit back, relax, enjoy this one. We've got 2.5 minutes. Enjoy every single second of it.
For years, professional conservatives and professional Republicans, all they ever wanted to do was talk about GDP, GDP, GDP. Well, you know what? President Trump did an amazing job growing this economy. But what's so much more important than that is defending this nation's heritage, its culture, its values, so that our children, our sons and daughters can grow up in a country that is proud of its past and proud of its destiny. I speak to you today, I would gladly trade, if I had the choice, 1 point off the GDP if in exchange every single American child could go to a school where they were taught to love their country, its values, its heroes, its history, its story. No nation, ladies and gentlemen, no nation can long survive that teaches its own children to hate it. That's as unnatural as a family that discards its own children. We are doomed, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't stand up for our nation's children. We are doomed if we don't. And I know that you will. With all of your heart and soul, I know that you will. Because you understand the most important truth of all. America is not an idea. America is a nation. A nation has families. A nation has towns, it has communities, a nation raises armies, a nation has a culture, a story, heritage. These are the things we're fighting and dying for. And a nation, ladies and gentlemen, a nation has borders. Ideas don't have borders or boundaries. Ideas don't have towns and families, and ideas don't have citizens. So we are a nation that believes in ideas, but we are still, ladies and gentlemen, a nation not only with the right, but the sacred duty to take care of our own citizens above every other consideration. Our own children, our own families, our own communities, and to defend and protect our own sovereign borders is a sacred obligation from which we must never, ever back down.
Oh, 2.5 minutes isn't enough. You guys, I've been to the future, and you have no idea how bright it is. So speaking of the Giga Jew, Stephen Miller's America First Legal has filed suit against, drumroll, Chief Justice John Roberts. Look at that sharp suit. Great colors, great patterns, everything. Man, the guy knows how to dress. So what's this about? This is from Reason Magazine. There's a number of outlets that wrote about this, but this one was this article works. America First Legal Foundation v. Chief Justice John Roberts.
I'm a white guy, and I'm ready to kill.
Thank you, King Pilled Enjoyer. He says he's tipped $10. He says, tip the man. Do it for the culture. Yeah, listen to that guy. Tip the man. I'm a white guy, and I'm ready to kill. A FOIA lawsuit that seeks executive branch control over the Judicial Conference of the United States and Administrative Office of the United States. This is from Jonathan Adler. He says, last month, with relatively little fanfare, the America First Legal Foundation filed suit against Chief Justice John Roberts in his capacity as the presiding officer of the Judicial Conference of the United States and Robert J. Conrad, director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. The suit is nominally seeking to enforce a document request under FOIA but substantively raises broad separation of powers claims. So the Judicial Conference of the United States is basically like kind of like the board of directors for the the justice system, and John Roberts, as the Chief Justice, is the presiding officer over that. So you could think of him as sort of like the chair of the board. And then Robert Conrad would be the director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, which manages all of the employment and various different policies of the different judicial offices. The suit was prompted by the refusal of the Judicial Conference and Administrative Office to respond to America First Legal's FOIA requests for copies of communication with the offices of Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Representative Hank Johnson, two legislators who have worked overtime to stir up ethical allegations against sitting Supreme Court justices. That would be Scalia and Thomas. The Judicial Conference and Administrative Office rebuffed the requests on the grounds that each are exempt from FOIA. The basis for America First suit is that the Judicial Conference and Administrative Office are not part of the judiciary, but are instead executive branch agencies subject to FOIA. So, the Judicial Conference and Administrative Office, according to this lawsuit, they have been rebuffing attempts by America First to the legal foundation to get these communications happening between Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Representative Hank Johnson, pursuant to this effort to stir up ethical allegations against Clarence Thomas and I just forgot. I said Scalia a minute ago. I didn't mean Scalia. I meant why can I never remember the frickin' guy's name? The other conservative justice. His name just gone. So essentially the implication here is that the Chief Justice has been coordinating with Democratic politicians to stir up ethical allegations against his fellow justices. That's kind of the subtext that I'm reading into this. And so both of these offices said, no, we're not subject to FOIA. Essentially, they're saying we're part of the judiciary. And the basis of this lawsuit, the implication is that, no, the executive branch has ultimate authority over the Judicial Conference and the Administrative Office. According to America First Legal Foundation, neither entity is a court, and insofar as each has other responsibilities, including the promulgation of rules governing federal courts and responding to congressional inquiries, each is an agency under FOIA. It further claims that insofar as the Chief Justice is able to appoint members of Judicial Conference committees, quote, then he must be acting as an agency head, subjecting the Judicial Conference to the FOIA. So, the Chief Justice appoints members of Judicial Conference committees. That means that he is functioning as an agency head, which would then mean that the execution. So these are organizations that were created through Congress. So then the execution of the organization created by Congress falls to the executive branch. This is from Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, which authorizes Congress to delegate authority to appoint inferior offices to, quote, the courts of law. The suit does not merely seek fulfillment of the FOIA requests. It seeks to have the Judicial Conference and Administrative Office declared, quote, independent agencies within the executive branch. It further suggests, but does not allege, that the president should have the power to appoint and remove the presiding officer of the Judicial Conference and the director of the Administrative Office. So this is ultimately this is part of the war against the judiciary from the administration, because this is going directly after Chief Justice Roberts' position and seeking to his position in this capacity to bring that under the direct authority of the president. Justice Alito, thank you. Samuel Alito. I don't know why I can never remember his name. What do I have next here? So we're going to talk about Mark Carney. His visit to the White House now. So he talked a big, tough game on the campaign trail about how what makes we're going to stand up and be tough against Trump and really appeal to Canadian nationalism and this is I can't remember the exact thing he said, but it was something to the effect of basically seeing America as a hostile nation. Then he gets elected. And one of his first priorities, he says, we need to mend relationships with the U.S. We're better together, and we need to come up with a mutually beneficial agreement. Isn't that interesting? So Stephen Miller had some comments on this. So before I play you clips
of getting to be at the meeting today.
Got to slow that down there. Before I play you guys some clips from the meeting, and we can analyze them a little bit. Here is Stephen Miller talking about it, and I this is getting. I know I see the libs. They're just horrified by the degree to which like Carolyn Levitt and the alternative media people that come in that they just act normal. They're respectful and deferential and complimentary to the president, to the administration, and the libs are just pulling their hair out, just absolutely aghast that they're like, I can't hold it against the North Koreans anymore. I live in the same type of state, where we have this intentionally cultivated culture of absolute deference to the emperor or whatever. Stephen Miller is just he might even be pushing it a little too far for me. I'll be completely honest. But the man is just nothing if not absolutely loyal and deferential to his sovereign.
I had the pleasure of getting to be at the meeting today between the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Canada. What I witnessed was like watching a grandmaster in chess perform. President Trump has opened up a completely new relationship with Canada because of his strength and because of his diplomacy. The Prime Minister of Canada talked about finally contributing their fair share to our nation.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, is it not going to play? So there's something, it seems that there's something about having, so Super Chat just came in. TC, a $5 Super Chat. He says, Gigaju, full send coming in hot. I forgot to go check and see and go remove the limit. So anything below $5 in this episode is not gonna trigger the thing. But it seems that if there's a video playing when the Super Chat comes in, that it doesn't play the little animation. I'm wondering if that's the case. Anyways, so let me play it a couple times yesterday, but now it's not letting me play it. So apologies, sir. I'm sorry you did not get your little animation.
Nation's defense, or to NATO's defense, finally contributing and meeting that minimum of 2% benchmark and climbing up from there, so they're not a free rider with the United States anymore. He talked about achieving fair trade with the United States and acknowledged, the Prime Minister of Canada acknowledged the need to strike a fair trade deal with the United States, as President Trump has long asked for. He emphasized, the Prime Minister of Canada, his deployment of troops and guards to the Canadian border at President Trump's request to keep fentanyl out of the United States of America. It's just one concrete win after another because of President Trump's leadership on this issue. And President Trump kept emphasizing two words. We want friendship with Canada, but we also insist upon and demand fairness from Canada. And President Trump will continue to hold fast to that requirement.
So, yes, he's like a grandmaster in chess. He sounds like the QAnon thread posters, and I say this with great love and affection. He sounds like the QAnon people who will post these threads about now he's done it. Now he has entrapped them like a grandmaster in chess. So here's a absolutely AI generated thread from Carl Meta here. President Trump just hosted a high-stakes meeting with Canada's Prime Minister. Major announcements were made, from global conflicts to trade deals. But then Trump made a move no one saw coming. Here's everything you should know. No joke, it gets crazier the further you read. We got some copywriting going here. Okay, let's go. So, first clip. Trump welcomed new Prime Minister Mark Carney just 2 days after the election victory.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit. His party was losing by a lot.
Right away now, look at that face. Right away now. Your power, you have power because I gave it to you.
And he ended up winning, so I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics. maybe even greater than mine. You know? But I want to just congratulate you. That was a great election, actually. We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person.
So he just big dicked him with a smile. Yeah, I own you. And then he says, we were watching with great interest. We're very invested in this outcome. And now he's going to be very complimentary. Yes, I think you're a very smart person. I think you know exactly what you need to do.
As we spoke before the election quite a few times. And it's an honor to have you at the White House and the Oval Office. And you see the new and improved Oval Office as it becomes more and more beautiful with love. You know, we handle it with great love. And 24 karat gold, that always helps too. Thank you.
What does he say here? He says, this wasn't just a courtesy call. It was the first move in reshaping the entire U.S.-Canada relationship. First major revelation, the Houthi ceasefire. The Houthis. We're going to find out about the Houthis.
The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that, and we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated, but more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore, and that's what the purpose of what we were doing. So that's just news. We just found out about that. So I think that's very, very positive. They were knocking out a lot of ships going, as you know, sailing beautifully down the various seas. It wasn't just a canal, it was a lot of other places. And I will accept their word, and we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis, effective immediately. And Marco, you'll let everybody know that. The Houthis.
Marco, you'll let everyone know that. Then comes a bombshell tease. Now, supposedly this tease here has to do with... I just saw something briefly on it today. It's this great policy announcement he's going to make. So it has something to do with Medicare, but I haven't seen the exact details on it. So everyone was all in an uproar about it because he announced this big landmark, game-changing thing. But it's going to be something related to Medicare. So we'll wait and see what the actual thing is. So here he talks a little bit about trade between Canada and so he talks about NAFTA and USMCA.
Is USMCA dead?
No, it was actually very effective, and it's still very effective, but people have to follow it. So, you know, that's been a problem. People haven't followed it. But it was a transitional step a little bit, and as you know, it terminates fairly shortly. It gets renegotiated very shortly. But I thought it was a very positive step from NAFTA. NAFTA was the worst trade deal in the history of our country, probably in the history of the world. And this was a transitional deal, and we'll see what happens. You know, we're going to be starting to possibly renegotiate that if it's even necessary. I don't know that it's necessary anymore, but it served a very good purpose. And the biggest purpose it served is we got rid of NAFTA. NAFTA was a very unfair deal for the United States. A very, very terrible deal. It should have never been made. It was made many years ago, but it should have never been made.
So some interesting kind of implications in here. He's talking about, so USMCA expires soon. It was only intended to be a transitional thing. And what he says there right toward the end of that clip is we may not even need to renegotiate or anything. Just let it end. Because it was a transitional thing from this world where you need to have these big multilateral negotiated agreements to have these big trade deals between a bunch of different trade partners. And we're moving into a new age now. This new age, we're just going to negotiate unilaterally with each country. And each of you is going to get a custom solution. And additionally, we may not need it. We may not need to negotiate something special between Canada and Mexico because because Canada and Mexico are going to be part of the United States. And then a little bit more talk about trade here. My whole computer is this. I don't know if this is a computer thing or what, but my computer's a little jumpy as well. Hopefully the audio is is tolerable at least. $5 super chat from Slosher. $5 Canadian. Speaking of our Leaf brethren, he says, should I start telling my liberal coworkers Trump installed Carney? Securing the border and a fair trade deal is all Trump asked for and is getting. Yes, you absolutely should do that. And you should surreptitiously record them and post videos on the internet of the faces that they make when you tell them that.
Between the tariffs, don't forget, we're now getting 25% on cars, 25% on aluminum, 25% on steel, and maybe more importantly, massive numbers of companies are moving into the United States. Honda, we have tremendous, the car companies are moving in at levels we've never seen before.
Never seen it
before. The
before.
biggest investment ever made in the United States is being made right now. Trillions of dollars. I would say we could be at $9 trillion. You could go back to other presidents. They haven't had $1 trillion for their entire term. Look at Biden. He had bad numbers. People were leaving. They weren't coming in. They were leaving with Biden, and he didn't know the difference. The only thing he knew.
It's just like, it's like two bros just comparing like the numbers in their businesses or something. You Larry down the street there. He's got bad numbers. You should see his hardware store or whatever. You should see the numbers he's doing. He's got bad numbers. My numbers are great. They're beautiful. They're the best. Big, clean, beautiful numbers.
There was people coming in. You know who they were? Illegal immigrants. Okay, from prisons, from mental institutions, from all sorts of places that weren't good, from gangs, from Venezuela. They were coming in and they were criminals and murderers. 11,888 people that murdered, and at least half of them murdered more than one person. This is what Biden led into our country. I'm bringing in big companies. We have Apple is investing.
How's that for a rhetorical device? Of course, he's Trump, so he just kind of just sort of just steamrolls right on through it. But he's like, I brought in companies. Biden brought in criminals. Biden brought in murderers. I bring in investments. Yeah, like two guys comparing lawns. That's exactly what it is. Two middle-aged dads standing out on their lawns yelling back and forth at each other.
$500 billion. We have Jensen, as you know, is going to be 500 biggest chip maker, or chip thinker, I call him. He's really a thinker more than a maker. But we also have the maker, Mr. Wei. I get to know them all in the last, it was a cram course. But they're all moving into America because of the tariffs. And I don't think people have appreciated it. Some people do. Some of the smart people do. So we have more money coming in. It's really an amazing thing. We have more money being invested in the United States now than at any time ever before in our history, and it's not even close.
That's right, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Now here, this is a very interesting, probably the most interesting comment in the entire, come on. Give me the button. Let me click the button. Pause. Okay.
President, is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
President, is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you?
No. Why not? It's just the way it is. Those tariffs aren't going anywhere. Come on. Don't make me regret you, Streamlabs. So more on talking about the his vision for manufacturing in America.
We want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada. And we put tariffs on.
He's sitting right in front of him. He's just sitting there with him, telling him to his face, we don't want your stupid cars.
On cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of past thinking of people. We have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically.
Imagine winning an election, the prime minister of the country, and you go to the White House and Trump tells you to your face, we don't want your cars. We don't want your steel. We don't want your shit. We're tired of subsidizing you. All of that trade surplus that they have, that's effectively, it's something, some hundreds of billions of dollars that America is sending out to Canada every year. That then becomes part of the mechanism that can be used for the tail to wag the dog. America wants those dollars back. We don't need this relationship. This relationship benefits you in a way that it doesn't benefit us. We can manufacture. We could generate all our own steel. We can manufacture our own cars. We can do all of this ourselves. We have no need to do it for you. Now, if you were going to do it for us and we were going to get some sort of benefit out of that, well, okay, maybe we could think about that. But we're not going to subsidize your country and also buy shit from you that we could just be making ourselves. And he's saying this to him directly to his face in his welcome to being prime minister visit to the White House. And then here's more talk about the 51st state.
Canada should become the 51st state. No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes.
Look at him just squirming over
free
here.
Free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway, because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
It's funny that it's the way he frames that up. It's two places we like each other very much. There's no reason to have hostilities. The way he does this unlike anyone else, where he can simultaneously say the things that just piss everyone off, make them lose their minds, but then he also is like, this is great. We love Canada. It's beautiful, wonderful place. I can't remember if there was a quote in, if it was in one of these or was another video I saw. But he talked about how his mom lived in Canada and he has great love for Canada. It's a beautiful place. It's wonderful. It's the best, just I would never ever want to be across the negotiating table from Donald Trump, especially if it's some big public negotiation. You are going to get schlonged. It's that simple. Shout out to Douglas Archer here on the chat on X for reminding me of that wonderful term. So here's Mark Carney trying to damage control here.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
Canada is stepping up the military. participation because Mark knew, they were low, and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
Never say never. Now, real quick, this little clip that some guy posted on TikTok or something like that. Donald Trump's face when Carney says Canada will never be for sale.
Watch. He's about to say Canada will never be for sale. Watch Trump's face.
It's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity
well,
in the partnership.
This nigga funny, bro. Watch.
But the opportunity
well,
in the partnership.
This nigga funny, bro.
The blacks love our president, don't they, folks? And here he tells this story again. I love listening to him tell this because it just... I don't know many people who would have jumped on this the way that he did.
And I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking your... We want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But
that's not a money thing. We're not protecting Canada because we get paid for it. We're protecting Canada because it directly affects our own national interest.
It's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that.
What's interesting here is even if, I think that some parts of Canada are, I think there's going to be a legit secession sort of movement within the western part of Canada, Alberta, Saskatchewan. I don't think the ultimate outcome is determined. I think anybody who tells you, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen, I think is that's not how politics works in a liminal age like this. Yeah, Slusher, strong negotiation position. He has staked out the strongest possible negotiation position on this, where anything that falls short of Canada or parts of Canada becoming formally part of the United States, anything that falls short of that is an improvement over how it once was. So he's staked out this position and he's holding on to it. He's sticking to it because it also it's very much in the United States interest to have Alberta and Saskatchewan join the United States. That would 100% be in the U.S.'s interests. So it's more than expected that he would just keep pressing on this over and over and over and over again, because you might say, oh, this is encouraging a rise in Canadian nationalism, which if it does, okay, sure, great. Well, at least maybe Canadians will choose to actually play an active role in the governance of their own country. At the same time, it also continues to stoke the Albertan independence sorts of movements and encourage people to keep thinking that way and keep it's giving them political cover as well. $5 super chat from Colin. He says, I drank too much, Matt. What do? Help. I'm going to suggest to you that you get naked and go climb in the chicken coop. I think that will probably fix everything. That's my recommendation. Come on.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. Respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st state. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
So he's here to have these discussions. Why is he there to have those discussions? Who wanted to have these discussions? Obviously, Trump wanted to have these discussions. So he's going to come in and he's going to try to own the frame, and, Canada's positions on this is not going to change. And of course, because they're publicly negotiating here. But the mere fact that he's sitting here talking very seriously about how, oh, these are important discussions we need to have. This is important negotiation. He's already on Trump's turf. He's already conceded the point. Some comments here from Secretary Lutnick.
Sure. So we've made an arrangement with the car companies that 15% of their USMCA parts are included, and then 15% of foreign parts from the manufactured suggested retail price are not tariffed to help domestic manufacturing really thrive.
So it gave them a chance to be able to build their car parts factories if they're going to. A lot of these companies already have factories, and what they have to do is just fill them out, but they're able to build them in the United States, so we gave them a pretty substantial period of time.
It's interesting seeing all the different people that show up for these sorts of meetings here in the Oval Office. You've got JD right here. You always have Marco Rubio here. Then typically, I can't remember if is Lutnick sitting right next to him on the couch here. I think he's usually there. This right here is Jameson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative. And then you've always got Stephen Miller standing right back here. Susie Wiles stands right over here. And then typically this in the pink back here might be Pam Bondi. I don't know. I don't know if she usually wears bright pink like that. But Pam Bondi often is right over in that area as well. Yeah, I don't remember. This administration seems uniquely to present themselves as a unified whole as often as possible, having all the different cabinet secretaries, multiple cabinet secretaries show up in one thing and do something together in like a show of unity, sort of. It's interesting, and maybe it's been the case with past administrations, and I just didn't pay as much attention to them. But this one in particular, they've got it's genuinely probably the best cabinet that I've ever seen, and they are constantly functioning as like appearing in public and doing events and stuff as a unified whole. Speaking of the All In podcast episode that just dropped with man, I can't remember anyone's name today. Friedberg interviewing Doug Burgum, the Secretary of the Interior. It's very, very interesting, talking about U.S. energy policy and the regulatory state and all that sort of thing. Burgum's an impressive dude. He can speak to the stuff really well. Let's see here. Fundamental reality. Trump sees Canada's economy as competition, not partnership. For the first time since World War II, a U.S. president is treating Canada as an economic rival rather than ally. So yeah, anyways, decent thread. Very, very, very AI-like in the writing. I already played that video. Big announcement here, and this is interesting from a national pride sort of perspective, and indicative of the federal government playing a role to promote national pride and such things. Trump announces we're going to have a victory day for World War I and World War II, and he makes a couple of interesting comments in
thank you
this
very much. Before we
video
begin,
here.
I'm pleased
So
to
let
announce
me-
that I've just signed.
Okay, let's listen to this.
Well, thank you very much. Before we begin, I'm pleased to announce that I've just signed a proclamation officially designating tomorrow, May 8th, as a victory day for World War II, commemorating the 80th anniversary of America's victory in the Second World War. All over the globe, our World War II allies are celebrating this week, but the United States has never joined in with the proper celebration of our own, and the victory was mostly accomplished because of us. Whether you like it or not, We came into that war and we won that war, and we had a lot of help from a lot of great people, a lot of great allies. But I think there would be nobody that would say that we were not the dominant force in that war, and we don't celebrate it. And I think that's a great disservice to the people that lost their lives and people that fought so hard in winning World War II, and also a separate Victory Day for World War I, and we're going to be doing that too. It was American tanks and ships and trucks and airplanes and service members that vanquished the enemy 80 years ago this week. Without America, the liberation would never have happened. And so we have to pay tribute and homage to those people that gave us victory.
Now, there's a very interesting subtext to this that I don't necessarily think this is like, I'm under no illusion that Trump is some crypto post World War II consensus America. Like, I don't think that he's super hip to the notion of the post-war consensus and everything that's come along with that. And I'm not trying to imply that. I'm saying this is sort of just naturally how he is as a natural, patriotic, proud American, as he calls himself, a nationalist. By the act of pursuing this agenda the way that he is, he's actually directly subverting the post-war consensus, because part of like a key component of this post-war consensus is that in the same way that it was predominantly white Western nations that effectively outlawed the practice of slavery before it it isn't completely outlawed, it just changed forms, but the particular form of chattel slavery, it was Western European nations that stopped doing it before anybody else. And yet we're the ones who are supposed to feel guilty that the practice existed. And then in the same way, like, we are supposed to feel guilty for, within the standard historical narrative of World War II, we're the ones who vanquished the Nazis and saved the poor Jews in the concentration camps, and yet we also have to perpetually pay deference and recognize our implicit guilt for everything that ever happens to a Jew. And he's like, no, we're going to be proud of what the nation did in World War I and World War II. And there's the obvious subtext of the great manufacturing and industrialization and everything that happened through that. That's also a key component of that we're going to be proud of, because this is a key part of the economic agenda moving forward.
And we did something else that people don't talk about. We rebuilt the world. All of these countries that were destroyed, we helped them rebuild.
Isn't this interesting?
And that's something that, for the most part, others did not do. So with this proclamation, we are hereby honored.
I just was waiting for him to say something about the Marshall Plan, but that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the Marshall Plan. So again, I don't think that Trump is I don't think that Trump is an avid listener of Tom Luongo, but he doesn't really have to be. He sort of is instinctually just embodies this persona. This is why he's the avatar of America. He just embodies it naturally, organically, without even necessarily being able to rationalize it or knowing all the historical facts or being fully read in on revisionist history or what have you. He's just a proud American. And being a proud American is recognizing these certain realities and working to restore America's greatness. And then someone obviously wrote this speech for him. And he does have people in the administration who are speechwriters who are definitely hip to this whole thing. So this whole declaring Victory Day in World War I and World War II is also about repudiating the entire Marshall Plan structure that has been locked in place, for better or for worse, definitely for worse, for the last several decades. And that's ending. That's coming to an end.
Honoring the incredible sacrifice and heroism of millions of Americans who served in World War II, along with the unprecedented mobilization, home front that helped deliver this great triumph. All Americans should take pride in what these incredible patriots have achieved. So I just want to say happy Victory Day to all. So we are celebrating every year now. I can guarantee for 4 years, but I think after that we're going to have 2 Victory Days, World War I and World War II. This is World War II Victory Day. In the future, we're going to have a major celebration of each day. We're not going to have days off because we don't have enough days in the year. We have too many celebrations already. But we're going to have Victory Day and for World War I, World War II. And without us, those wars would not have been won. I think we can say that, would not have been won. And I think it's time that the United States starts taking credit for their achievements. And I really believe it's a shame. You know, I was watching for the last week, and I noticed France, I noticed other countries all getting ready for Victory Day. And I said, that's sort of strange, because David just added something. He said, we also rebuilt the world. And I didn't have that, and I should have that. That was a big factor. But I noticed all of the countries, Russia.
I wonder who the David is who said that. He turned and said, David was the one who said, we rebuilt the world. I wonder which David.
Having a big day tomorrow. And by the way, they lost millions of people. And they were absolutely a major factor. But there was no major factor like us. We won the war. And we won it with the help of others. But everybody was celebrating but the United States of America. And I said, you know, I think it's time that we start celebrating victory. And that's what we're doing.
It's interesting that he's not coming at this from the Tom Luongo perspective on it. He's coming at this from the let's celebrate America's great accomplishments perspective. And yet, by choosing to be like, we're going to celebrate America's great accomplishments, he's effectively like he's directionally moving in the same direction that he would be if he was coming from the Tom Luongo perspective. So you can see that just how much the idea that Americans in particular should feel bad, should feel shame, should not be allowed to be proud of their country and its accomplishments. How fundamental that is to the entire post-war consensus view. Even though it's not necessarily something that's formally declared as part of it, it's a like an implicit foundational component of it. So there was an update on this story that let's plow on through here and I'll kind of clarify as we go. So I have this story here that this video from Pam Bondi announcing the largest fentanyl seizure in U.S. history and Sinaloa cartel's members arrested. And part of what I wanted to highlight here was this is stuff seized during the operation. Approximately $610,000 in U.S. currency, 49 firearms, some with switches and some ghost guns, 396 kilograms of fentanyl pills. 396 There was half a ton of fentanyl pills in there. Half a ton. That is a shitload of fentanyl pills. There's also 11.5 kilograms of fentanyl powder, 1.5 kilograms of cocaine, 3.5 kilograms of heroin, 7 pounds of methamphetamine, a Ford Raptor, and a GMC Denali. Then there's this story. So I was going to connect this is very good Pam Bondi, and then I was going to connect this story here. I actually got these out of in the wrong order. Since I put everything together and went live, apparently this tweet with this video from Alex Jones has been deleted. And let me see if I can find here. Hold on, let me before I go digging around in some of this stuff here. Let me open this. I just saw this just before I went live, and so I didn't have time to fully update myself on the story. So we're going to get the updated stuff in real time. So James O'Keefe has released a video talking about Prince Andrew. He's done another one of his stings, and it was teased by Alex Jones, and I think this video Alex Jones has since deleted this post, but I'm going to see if it's going to still play. So we just at least get the full context. Come on.
James O'Keefe's.
Okay, it will play.
One of the two big stories he's breaking is about someone in the Trump administration covering up Epstein. And then he put out a little short trailer yesterday that shows an image or still shot of video of Pam Bondi. So he didn't tell me the specifics. When he called me and me alone as a dead man switch.
So he's talking over it, but they played this video.
Specifics.
Here.
When he called me and me alone as a dead man switch.
Right there. There was a very brief flash. You could see a blonde. There you go. There's Pam Bondi. Very brief clip of her. So this was the connections that Alex Jones is making. He said that there's this James O'Keefe report coming out that is implicating Pam Bondi and helping cover up Epstein file stuff.
Man switch. So I was, I guess, flattered by him. He's like, I think you might be the only person that I know has the integrity to tell this in case something happens. And then when he told me, I was like, yeah, you are in danger, buddy. He told me the other stuff too. But he wouldn't even say who in the administration. I made some phone calls. And I told the crew over the weekend, I said, it's Pam Bondi. According to my sources. And because the White House already knows about this. So I wouldn't even tell the crew last week what the specifics were because I don't want to endanger them. And then there's two other big stories. And it looks like in this little promo video that he put out, he's kind of putting the three together because it's a big Pfizer news. And then some more Epstein news connected to the Democrats. But I'm going to stop right there. And wait and see what he puts out today. So we're going to be watching, obviously, his X account, Keith Media Group, very, very closely. Now,
that's like the most, about as polar opposite Alex Jones delivery as you could get from the thing I played at the beginning of the episode here. Talking very, very slowly and like he's wanting to be very careful about what he says. Well, apparently since then, this here from War Clandestine, he says, "Nah, man, I'm not being quiet on this one. I just had to sit and watch Alex Jones with the rest of the clickbait brigade peddle complete speculative nonsense all day long, claiming O'Keefe had proof Bondi was covering up Epstein. Now Alex Jones has deleted his post where he alleges that he made some phone calls and talked to some people and that he has sources telling him AG Bondi is covering up the Epstein files, and O'Keefe's big bombshell today was going to expose it, which of course did not happen. I'm going to play that O'Keefe video for you in just a sec. He said, this shit right here is unacceptable, and now thousands upon thousands of gullible people are believing completely fabricated nonsense because Alex Jones can't help but run his mouth. And now Alex has quietly deleted his post and will face no consequences for all the lies he just spread. Bondi and Cash just announced that they saved 115 children and locked up 200-plus pedos, and instead of paying attention to that, the dipshits on the internet have been smearing Bondi all day long based on absolutely nothing. So this is the video that has since been deleted. This is the video here that James O'Keefe released, and interestingly, he kind of mentions this at the very end, but interestingly, you'll note that there's he's got some sort of an affiliation again with Project Veritas. So this is his newest release talking about Prince Andrew, and I will also say that it's very interesting having, let's see, so I know that James O'Keefe has strong connections to Eric Prince, and obviously both of them have strong connections to the administration. And we've well documented here, other shows, Jason and Pete and Stormy and Tom Luongo and Alex Craner and all these people. It's very well, I think, substantiated at this point that the administration is clearly has a different posture toward Europe and the UK than past administrations have. So the fact that this sort of stuff is coming, I see James O'Keefe as not a direct representative of the administration, but absolutely working to a certain degree in coordination with the administration. And so the timing of this is interesting. I don't totally know what to make of it just yet, but I do think that it is very fascinating timing. So I'm going to play this video for you guys here.
He was in the Navy. He was 250 days at sea. He never saw his kid. I was really pissed because he lied to me. Epstein. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew. And then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, that he was f***ing underage girls. That's not cool.
John Bryan has been a close confidant to the British royal family for a long time. He worked for Queen Elizabeth II, was, quote, best friends with Princess Diana, and had a long-term intimate relationship with the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. According to Bryan, he practically raised Sarah Ferguson's children, the princesses Beatrice and Eugene. And Bryan said that he maintained a friendship with Ferguson's husband, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
Tell me like your story. So my story, you want to know my story? What? Like I've been so famous at times when I was on the front page of every newspaper in the planet because I was working with the Queen of England. Okay. You know, she's Queen Elizabeth. I was working with all the families. Princess Diana was my best friend. And I met the Duchess of York. Okay. That's Prince Andrew's wife. They were separated. And then Sarah and I sort of fell in love. And we lived together for like 7 years, 6 or 7 years, in my house in England. And I raised their 2 little children. They're so cute. Beatrice and Eugenie. Those were my children. Those were my kids. I raised those kids. Day to day raised. I was father to those kids.
Prince Andrew's connection to Jeffrey Epstein emerged in 2010, when photos showed them walking together in New York's Central Park. Epstein had already been convicted in 2008 of procuring a 14-year-old girl for prostitution. In 2014, a woman named Virginia Giuffre alleged in a Florida court filing that Jeffrey Epstein paid her to have sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17, a minor. On April 25th, a few weeks ago, Giuffre died by, quote, suicide. Prince Andrew denied Giuffre's sex abuse allegations in a now infamous 2019 BBC interview.
She said she had sex with you 3 times, once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
The interview was a public relations disaster for the royal family and prompted the Queen to strip Prince Andrew of his royal duties. In the aftermath of that interview, the prince sought advice from a longtime royal family confidant, John Bryan.
Wait, so you were not friends with Prince Andrew? Oh, very good. Oh, no, we were very civilized. We'd go have dinner at his house. He'd have dinner at my house to see his kids. So then, we go on holiday in the south of France. And I get a big property, like 10 acres, right near Saint-Tropez, right? You know, nobody has 10 acres. I'm on the biggest property, beautiful house. And I rent it so that we have privacy, right? Because the paparazzi are everywhere. There's hundreds of paparazzi, not 10, not 20, hundreds. I know. And this is already when Prince Andrew. Yes, Prince Andrew. His own thing. Yeah, he's on the. He was in the Navy. He was 250 days at sea. He never saw his kid.
2 weeks after Prince Andrew's BBC interview,
this video, I think, is the main character in this, and I think the actual target of this is this John Bryan character. That's my first. That's my gut reaction to this. So he's the crisis advisor. So when a member of the royal family is having issues, they hire a crisis advisor. And this makes me think of the personal trainer that Kanye West had, who was essentially like a like an MK Ultra agent there for mind control effectively. This is a pretty well documented, like a lot of the intelligence agencies actually operate through channels like this, using crisis PR firms or the cover of being a crisis advisor or something like that to serve as a handler. And I'm suspecting that this is the purpose of a video like this is to go after whoever this John Bryan guy is and the power that he represents. We're now on to you. We're airing you out. This is more than just, I think, the royal family and Prince Andrew, because this is a fairly this isn't new news. But if they've managed to get into whoever this John Bryan guy and whoever he represents, if they're on to them, this being publicly released like this strikes me as a targeted shot.
John Bryan was brought to the Royal Lodge, where Prince Andrew lives, to offer crisis management advice. According to The Telegraph, the meeting was conducted discreetly. At the royal residence, Bryan observed that Prince Andrew was visibly distressed and struggling to focus, reportedly unable to concentrate for more than 40 minutes at a time due to the strain he was under. As reported in the Daily Mail, John Bryan constructed a 5-page document emphasizing that Prince Andrew should publicly show empathy for Epstein's victims. Back in November 2022, Bryan publicly stated that he believed Prince Andrew was innocent of the claims made against him related to the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scheme. Now, in our exclusive hidden camera undercover footage, John Bryan reveals for the first time that Prince Andrew did in fact have sex with underage girls.
Was he already cheating and like involved with like
other girls? I was so pissed about that. I was really pissed. I was really pissed because he lied to me about it.
Lied about
Epstein. Yeah. No, I knew he saw him, but he lied to me that he was such a close friend. I was so pissed. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew, and then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, that he was f***ing underage girls.
Now, our newsroom has some...
That guy's full of shit. I don't know. I don't know about anything else, but I know that guy's full of shit. He is absolutely telling a story that he thinks she wants to hear. He's totally, you notice all the details that he emphasizes in it, like, you had to get away from all the paparazzi. There were so many of them. You won't believe how many paparazzi were after me. That's how interested they were in me. That's how interesting I am. There was so many paparazzi. You can even count them, the number of paparazzi. And then I was really special, and I did this big public display of this thing, and so many people knew who I was, and everyone was saying my name, and he's trying to impress her. And then, of course, if he's talking to some foid or whatever, he doesn't want to be like, oh yeah, isn't it hot that he was boinking underage chicks? No, he's like, oh, that's awful. No, of course I would never sanction something like that. I can't. He lied to me. I was so angry at him. He lied to me, and I thought we were friends. I couldn't believe that he would lie to me about something like that. It was just disgusting. The dude is absolutely full of it.
Concerns about where this investigation is headed and who may be implicated. But our only motivation in doing these stories is the public's right to know. And if this report and our subsequent reports shine a light into darkness and expose evil, then we are willing to take the risks. At the end of the day, child victims of Jeffrey Epstein need to be protected, and the people involved need to be held accountable by law enforcement immediately. Without accountability, our notion of freedom is just an illusion. We're going to be breaking our next stories exclusively at O'KeefeMediaGroup.com. You may see this Project Veritas sign behind me. Stay tuned for next week.
This is very interesting, given all the legal issues that have gone on between him and Project Veritas, and I wonder if he got back control of it. That would be very interesting to see. Personally, I think James O'Keefe is kind of a bit of a goober, but at the same time, he genuinely has put himself in danger with the stuff that he's done, and I have not. So I'm going to not be too critical. With respect to the Pam Bondi side of things, so Alex Jones, his expectation was that this big drop that O'Keefe was teasing was going to implicate Pam Bondi. It obviously has not, and so I guess we'll hold off on that particular aspect of the story and wait to see how it develops. I do think that a lot of people's expectations on this whole thing are way too unreasonable, and frankly, the administration probably does have themselves to thank for part of that, because Trump himself personally made such a big deal about how we're going to release the Epstein list, but it's just not anywhere near that simple. That you could just that like these are matters that are way above the heads of the Attorney General or the FBI director. That they don't have any they have like minimal influence that they can kind of sort of direct things. But these are matters of major geopolitical significance that go way ahead or above domestic officers of the federal government. So anybody who's thinking that they're like not doing their job by not just simply publishing all the Epstein files in total great detail and everything is you're completely out of your minds. And ultimately, I think that there's a good reason why a lot of it doesn't get published, because ultimately, when you're dealing with realpolitik like this and you have dirt on powerful people, publishing it actually makes that dirt less powerful. Inevitably, in these sorts of power games, there's going to be the dirty laundry is going to be held as leverage, and deals are going to be made. And part of the deal is you are going to disappear and never be heard from again, and this stuff is not going to be made public. So it's possible for stuff to not be made public and for a sort of justice to be served. But if you're thinking that this is going to be some sort of like fairy tale ending, or if you ever thought that was going to be the case, I mean, the joke's on you. And yeah, Trump said, oh yeah, we're going to publish everything. You got to know when to take him literally and when to take him seriously. We're going to publish everything means we're going to prosecute this issue. Now, toward that end, here's some interesting politicking that's going on. I touched on this story on one of the last episodes. Trump talking about U.S. Attorney for D.C., Ed Martin. He says Ed Martin is going through the approval process to be U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia. He has the interim or the acting, and his time expires, and he has to be nominated. He was nominated to be the permanent U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia, but he has to be approved. Now, some interesting comments that Trump makes here. He says, according to many, but in particular, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his approval is imperative in terms of doing all that has to be done to save lives and to make America healthy again. So when he mentions Ed Martin, the thing that he associates him with is RFK Jr. and the MAHA movement. He says, this is a passion for Ed, more so than for almost anyone that I have seen. One of the reasons that I was so successful in winning the 2024 presidential election is my commitment to health and helping to make America healthy. The cost of the chronic disease epidemic has gotten out of control over the past 4 years of the Biden presidency. We are going to take our country back and fast. Ed Martin will be a big player in doing so, and I hope that the Republican senators will make a commitment to his approval, which is now before them. Ed is coming up on the deadline for voting, and if approved, he will not let you down. When someday in the future you look back at your vote for Ed Martin, you'll be very proud of what you have done for America and America's health. Make America great again. So he's tying him to RFK and MAHA, which is very interesting because this is not what Ed Martin is known for. And if the Republican senators do not approve him, then probably one of the most corrupt judges, James Boasberg, will be responsible for appointing his replacement. So a few things about Ed Martin, the things that he's known for. He was the chair of the Missouri Republican Party from 2013 to 2015. I'm just reading from Wikipedia here. He worked as an organizer of Stop the Steal rallies. He was even a speaker. I believe it was on January 5th at the Stop the Steal rally. He was a speaker there. He served as an attorney and advocate for January 6 defendants. He called claims of Russian interference in the 2016 United States elections and the results of the 2020 United States presidential election hoaxes. In December of 2024, Trump announced his intention to nominate Martin for Chief of Staff for the Office of Management and Budget before appointing him instead as the interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia in January of 2025. That made him the first U.S. Attorney for D.C. in at least 50 years to be appointed without experience as a judge or a federal prosecutor. In May 2025, a Senate confirmation appeared unlikely to pass after Senate Republican Tom Tillis announced his opposition, leaving him with too few votes to be reported out of the Judiciary Committee. More on Tom Tillis here in just a moment. So a couple interesting points about his career. As an attorney in private practice, Martin specialized in differing commercial and pro bono cases. He did legal work for the Institute for Justice, the Human Action Network, Brian Cave LLC, Americans United for Life, Martin Simmons, and formed his own law practice, Ed Martin Law Firm. Then in 2005, while working for Americans United for Life, Martin represented 2 Illinois pharmacists who sought relief from an administrative rule requiring Illinois pharmacists doing public business to dispense a certain contraceptive, also known as Plan B or the morning after pill, under the state's health plan. They argued that such distribution violated their religious rights of conscience. Martin appeared on Lou Dobbs Tonight to discuss the case with Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. The court sided with Martin and the plaintiffs, agreeing that the administrative rule violated the Rights of Conscience Act. It granted the plaintiffs a permanent injunction. And then he also represented a small business owner who sold caskets and funeral supplies at discounted prices. In an effort to regulate abuses in the funeral business, the state of Missouri required vendors of caskets to have a funeral director's license. Martin and other attorneys argued that the government should not prevent the businessmen from selling caskets at a discount and helping people avoid inflated costs of purchasing a casket from funeral homes. Eventually, the state board of embalmers and the funeral directors sided with the small business owner. So then he represented 3 January 6 defendants, including a member of the Proud Boys. On January 6th, he posted on social media from the Capitol area describing the crowd as rowdy but nothing out of hand. Before his appointment, he had been an active supporter of January 6 defendants as legal counsel. And so these are the things that he's been associated with. Stop the Steal, January 6th. These are the things that the opposition for him is based upon. As you can see from these comments here from Tom Tillis, and Tillis makes he says a couple interesting, he implies some interesting things in this interview here.
He is, I don't believe he's being advanced to the markup. I met with Mr. Martin. He seems like a good man. Most of my concerns related to January 6th, and he built a compelling case on some of the 15-12 prosecutions that were probably heat of the moment bad decisions, but where we probably have a difference is I think anybody that breached the perimeter should have been in prison for some period of time. Whether it's 30 days or 3 years is debatable, but I have no tolerance for anybody who entered the building on January the 6th, and that's probably where most of the friction was.
I see. So he disagreed with you on that?
Well, no, I have to say that Mr. Martin did a good job of explaining how there were people that probably got caught up in it, but they made the stupid decision to come through a building that had been breached and that the police officers and others were saying stay away. So the difference wasn't that they should be charged, in my estimation, it's by how much. That's an argument I'm willing to have, but we have to be very, very clear that what happened on January the 6th was wrong. It wasn't, it was not prompted or created by other people to put those people in trouble. They made a stupid decision and they disgraced the United States by absolutely destroying the Capitol, and I can't have any patience.
It sounds like your concerns were not abbreviated.
But let me be very clear, though. Mr. Martin did a good job of explaining the one area that I think he's probably right, that there were some people that were over-prosecuted. But there were some, 200 or 300 of them, that should have never gotten a pardon. And he agreed.
He had to stop and think about that, and he realized he was pot committed. But he didn't want to say that. He didn't want to say that there was 200 or 300 people who should have never gotten a pardon. But the words were coming out of his mouth, and he realized that he now, Tom Tillis, sitting senator, has just said the president should not have pardoned those people. He just directly criticized the president while he is sitting in opposition as an important vote in opposition to the will of the president. The fact that he caught himself there is very interesting. That was a strategic blunder by him. He did not want to say that. He caught himself, had to think about it, and realized there's no way out of it now. Just got to lean into it and just stand firm. But if he had no problem with himself saying that, he wouldn't have stopped and caught himself like he did. Obviously, I'm not going to try to relitigate the whole January 6th thing. It's the guy's a buffoon. Well, there's actually a darker reason why he is standing in opposition here. And what's interesting to me, though, is that, so there's this deeper reason we'll get into here in just a minute that's associated with January 6th. Then there's the thing that Trump is emphasizing when he's putting forth Ed Martin's name is MAHA. He's not talking about the January 6th stuff at all. He's picked this alternate thing, and he says this is like one of the things he's most passionate about. Let me finish playing this video, and then I got a couple more comments on this.
Agreed with that. But the disagreement there had more to do, if Mr. Martin were being put forth as a U.S. attorney for any district except the district where January 6th happened, the protest happened, I'd probably support him, but not in this district.
When you say he's not being advanced to the markup, was he operating under that understanding that he's not being advanced through to a markup?
Well, I think Mr. Martin, I'm sure they're looking through it. I mean, be clear, some of the deadline has to do with the length of time he can operate as acting, and the administration can work through that if they want to have more time and potentially work them through.
So that's an interesting little thing he says there, which is that so there's like a deadline for how long. So he was appointed as the acting U.S. attorney for District of Columbia, and there's a deadline on that before he has to be replaced with a permanent one. What he's saying is, well, they can move that deadline if they want. Like they have some stuff that they could do, and I don't know exactly what it is, but there's paperwork magic that you can do to like initiate him for another term as acting U.S. attorney. The problem is that I think some of the stuff that they want to do with the U.S. attorney for D.C. is a very important U.S. attorney role, particularly if your goal is to begin prosecuting people who were involved in crimes in agencies like, I don't know, NIH, CDC, FDA. If any of those crimes happened in D.C., that might be the vector that you would use if you had a loyal, dependable bulldog of a U.S. attorney in D.C. They might play a very prominent role in prosecuting those sorts of crimes. So it's very interesting to me that his opposition, Tom Tillis is opposing him on the basis of J6. Trump says, I want him for MAHA. That's my focus, which I'm sure is partly a strategic like distraction from the J6 issue. And then Tom Tillis drops this little thing here. He actually countersignals Trump more directly and personally than he meant to. And then he drops this little thing here where he's basically like, well, if they want, they could just kind of fix things to extend out his acting role a little bit further. And he's implying I won't oppose that, because if you have the acting U.S. attorney, then that would introduce some political complication to any sort of major prosecution that he wanted to pursue. If he's just acting, then that's like a additional attack surface that people can say, oh, well, he hasn't actually been confirmed by the Senate. He's just acting, so now he's some rogue prosecutor, et cetera, et cetera. So the administration definitely wants him to be the permanent, or not the permanent, but the confirmed, no longer acting U.S. attorney for D.C. And I reading between the lines here, I think that part of this is because precisely they're planning prosecutions against people that would be brought in D.C.
But at this point, I've indicated to the White House I wouldn't support his nomination.
As Trump called you.
So he's saying flat out, I will not support his nomination. Now, Mike Benz is on the case, talking on InfoWars today. Or sorry, not InfoWars, Bannon's War Room. He says, North Carolina is the heart of the deep state. Mike Benz examined Senator Tillis's remarks disputing the Fedsurrection. So Tom Tillis actually has a darker connection to J6 that Mr. Mike Benz is going to elucidate for us.
And here's where, to me, it gets very dark. Tom Tillis has made precisely one public statement about this to the press, and that was just this morning, where he said it was January 6th that is the reason that he is not going to approve Ed Martin. And obviously, January 6th was a Fedsurrection. January 6th also happened, checks notes, what, four years and 4 months ago? It has no play today. Everyone who did not commit a violent crime that day has been pardoned by the President of the United States. There are no active cases when it comes to peaceful protesters. This is not just an ancient memory. It's settled. It's done. For that to be invoked as the reason to block Ed Martin suggests something much darker to me. Because if you actually parse that statement that Senator Thom Tillis said, is he mentions towards the end of his remarks that he was apprehensive about Ed Martin pursuing a Fedsurrection theory of the case. He alludes to the fact that he says that there was no federal involvement. That was a sort of pipe dream. I'm paraphrasing what he says. And he slips that in there. And I find that very curious because he's a senator from North Carolina. And North Carolina is the heart of the, shall we say, Mark Milley deep state when it comes to all things psychological operations, domestic, a very nasty history of domestic interference in domestic politics.
Well, and
North
Ralph
Carolina
Barrick at UNC Chapel Hill doing the COVID gain of function stuff. Mike, if you can hang with us through the break. Plus, we're also going to have AG Ken Paxton joining us shortly to get into all this. So, Mike, I want an update on what I think you are rightfully known for, all things NGOs, how they're funding all that resistance after we come back. If you can hang through, that'd be great. Warren, if you could just give me 2 minutes. You know, this audience is always wanting to be ahead of the curve on how they're sort of reformulating their resistance to Trump. Obviously, the NGOs taking a key role, if not the foremost role, maybe second to the judiciary, though. As
I had to let this play out here so you guys could see Natalie Winters. I know there's some of you guys who are enjoying this opportunity.
You've alluded to, they're all conjoined. It's all one of the same. How have they sort of been rebranding? I know this is a topic you've been discussing a lot, but just give us some key pointers. I know they'll find everything you're talking on X too, but just give us some of the top line assessment.
I know this is not the question that you just. I know this is not the question you just asked, but I was just talking about Thom Tillis in North Carolina in January 6th, and if I only have a minute and a half, I'd like to just put something out there to put the button on that because I think it's extremely concerning and important, if you don't mind. North Carolina, where Thom Tillis is the senator, played an extraordinary role in January 6th itself, which is why it highly disturbs me that Senator Tillis would be the one who's blocking this from the Republican side. North Carolina is what houses Fort Bragg, the Special Operations, the Psychological Operations Center, and where organizing protest activity has been a hotbed of that exact place for coming up on 60 years now, going back to Lyman Lemnitzer and the Joint Chiefs of Staff domestic operations in the 1960s. But most importantly, North Carolina was the center of the Fedsurrection logistics for January 6th. Go back and read the Thomas Caldwell complaint from the Justice Department. There's the entire Eastern Seaboard presence of the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and the Three Percenters, all 3 days before January 6th, starting January 3rd, met commonly in North Carolina, where the FBI and Justice Department allowed the, quote, quick reaction force bringing the guns and explosives to skate free as an unindicted co-conspirator. This person was called Person 3, and I'm going to read a few things from this complaint. Person 3 has a room and is bringing someone. He will be the quick reaction force. Oathkeeper friends from North Carolina are taking commercial buses up early in the morning the same night. They will have the goodies in case things go bad and we need to get heavy. Then it says Person 3 had maps. Person 3 created maps of the Capitol in order to map out where to go. He was the transit for actually bringing the guns and explosives to the meetup site in North Carolina. And this person who was literally transporting heavy weapons with a quote, planned to ferry heavy weapons across the Potomac, should that become necessary on January 6th, and distributing maps to find the quickest route to the Capitol, should those heavy weapons be needed. This person played the key role for the basis of the indictment of the entire Oath Keepers squad. Never was charged. Again, right there in North Carolina, right where the military should have been doing its counterintelligence and counterinsurgency work. We know Mark Milley said to Gina Haspel, the head of the CIA, on November 9th, 2020, just 2 months before January 6th, that there was a right-wing coup afoot and something needed to be done to stop it. Mark Milley would not just go back and sit on his thumbs if that's what he said to the CIA director. They would be infiltrating those very groups, and they would be doing it right there in North Carolina, where Fort Bragg is and exactly where they said the meetup point for January 6th was. So my question is what is so scary about the Fedsurrection theory, given North Carolina's role in it, that the senator from North Carolina is the one blocking it?
So it seems as if Tom Tillis has some leverage points here, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. If Tom Tillis just suddenly changes his tune, or if some other Republican senators who are currently going to oppose Ed Martin, if they suddenly change their tune, that will, I suppose, that will indicate that there's what does Tom Luongo call it, the Manila envelope quotient, that someone's dropping Manila envelopes on people's desks. So here's the great thing about this now is the position that the Republican squishes have been put into is anytime any of them decide that they're going to step out of line, like Tom Tillis is here. Tom Tillis, he's been faithfully voting along the way. He voted for Merrick Garland, by the way, to be Attorney General. So he's been faithfully voting along the Trump agenda, and now suddenly he steps out of line. Well, what's going to happen? You're going to get Mike Benz going on Bannon's War Room and igniting a firestorm of all of the Twitter autists that are now going to start digging into Tom Tillis and his connections with Fort Bragg and January 6th and Fedsurrection and this is a way that some of this politics can actually happen now. And this can generate the political pressure that ultimately forces Tillis to either step into line or could form the basis of throwing him out of office altogether. So also news on the MAHA front, Dr. Casey Means has been nominated for Surgeon General. I got a tweet here from Robert Malone. This is very appropriate. Robert Malone tweeting out the screenshot of Trump. Trump says, "I am pleased to announce that Dr. Casey Means will be nominated as our next Surgeon General of the United States of America. Casey has impeccable MAHA credentials and will work closely with our wonderful Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to ensure a successful implementation of our agenda in order to reverse the chronic disease epidemic and ensure great health in the future for all Americans. Her academic achievements, together with her life's work, are absolutely outstanding. Dr. Casey Means has the potential to be one of the finest Surgeon Generals in United States history. Congratulations to Casey. Secretary Kennedy looks forward to working with Dr. Jeanette Neshiwat in another capacity at HHS. Thank you for your attention to this matter." My favorite way for him to sign off a tweet. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Jeanette Neshiwat is his former nominee for Surgeon General, was someone who I think she described the COVID thingamabobs as like one of God's greatest gifts to mankind or something like that. Interestingly, she also is the sister-in-law of Mike Waltz, the recently deposed national security advisor. And her confirmation hearing was scheduled for tomorrow. And that's why this movement is being made right now. So Casey Means. Who is Casey Means? You guys may remember I played some of these clips from her interview with her brother on Tucker Carlson back in, I want to say it was September, I believe, August or September. Just an absolutely phenomenal conversation. And this is the Instagram Crunchy Moms, RFK's base. They are exultant. This is one of the best Surgeon General, one of the best possible candidates for the Surgeon General position from the perspective of the entire MAHA Crunchy world. So here's a couple of clips so you get an idea of who she is and what she's all about. And then one of these clips, I'm going to touch on the downside of. Or not, I suppose you can look at it as a downside. It's a new dynamic that is going to come along with the Casey Means types. So here's this first clip talking about her and her brother. They grew up in I think in DC. They were like very much of the same cultural stratum as like Tucker Carlson. High income private schools, very like DC aristocracy type. That's how they grew up. and she wound up. She was top of her class at Stanford, and wound up. I can't remember what level she was she got up to or was aspiring to, and then she just dropped out and bailed on it, essentially because she totally lost faith in the state of American medicine and how much of it's been corporatized and is incentivizing profiting off of chronic disease and that sort of thing. So she, in this clip here, this one went mega viral at the time, of her describing her relationship with her parents and then Tucker Carlson's reaction to it.
Simple root cause.
Can I just press you just a tiny bit?
Sure.
I hate this.
I know.
Why did you come to that conclusion and none of your colleagues did? I think it's really important to understand why certain people see obvious truths while everyone else is, including smart people, are blinded to them. What about you allowed you to connect these pretty obvious dots?
Parenting.
How? What did your parents do?
My parents. Our parents focused on incentives. Incentives are everything. Incentives are why Americans are sick right now. If we change the incentives, we'd get healthy in 2 years. Our country would be the most competitive country in the world. My parents' incentive in our family was to ask questions, not to have any stars or marks or anything, you know. So what was celebrated in our family was sitting down at the dinner table in DC and asking questions and poking at ideas. We were celebrated for thinking about things in a bigger picture. That is not, you talked about this with Tim Dillon on your recent podcast, the boomers, you know, they just want the stars for their kids, you know, to get all these little badges. But that was not what was celebrated. My parents didn't
We
care.
developed our own compulsion to climb up the ladder, but it was always instilled like, ask
Add
questions,
value,
and we
ask
never
questions, think for
felt
yourself.
actually like our parents were that happy with rising up. And it was like, are we being good people? Ask, and that was really instilled in us.
Did they have a moral, explicit moral center? Like, this is right,
I
this
think
is wrong?
they were very spiritual people.
Yeah.
You know, we were raised with spirituality. We were reading, you know, sacred texts and the Bible and Rumi and Ayn Rand and all these different things from a young age, discussing it at the dinner table, thinking about philosophy. And so that was what was
So
celebrated.
they were not conformists.
When I quit my surgical residency in my 5th and final year, after hundreds of thousands of dollars in my education, my parents threw me a party. They were
No way.
They came.
No parent would do that.
No parent. They were, and they never told me to quit.
Hundreds
but
of
they
thousands of debt, yeah.
absolutely. They were so proud of me for coming to my own conclusions and seeing it. And there's a lot of
Even though, so the incentive for parents, at least in DC, where I raised my children, is to tell people in your neighborhood, your friends, that you have a daughter who's a Stanford
They
educated
never pushed
doctor.
us to go to Stanford. They never pushed us to I never once, ever in our entire childhood, they said, you need to go to your college counseling meeting, ever. They were about having fun and thinking. We were, you know, they were older parents too. You know, my parents were in their 40s when they had us. They lived lives. They were not living through us. They were spiritually grounded. They're not afraid of death. You know, they aren't driven by the materialism that just makes you rack up a wall full of, you know, awards. It was about
you're making me emotional.
Yeah.
Sound like wonderful
That is
people.
the reason. Yeah, that is the reason. And I mean, there's privilege involved in it too, of course. Like, we had financial backstop. You know, a lot of my friends going to medicine, they were supporting their families, right? And I have so much respect for that. And the fact
I
that
agree.
people's options are limited, but doctors are in a trap. You know, it's $500,000 of education. You have this guaranteed salary, and all you have to do is drink the Kool-Aid. All you have to do is stay heads down and not ask questions, not ask why. And you can really feel good about your work, right? People are sick as hell in this country, and we do need people to be doing heart surgery, or else people will die. But the thing that is so imperative for people to understand is that the reasons we're having surgery, the reasons why we're getting sick, the reasons why American competitiveness is plummeting, the reasons why our kids are chronically ill, half of the kids in America are chronically ill, are all from preventable issues. So if you're a doctor who's not spending any time on focusing on that, then unfortunately, for better or worse, you are bankrolling on the problem.
Do you remember when Elon?
I honestly think you're.
So there's a couple things in this. First of all, what she describes with her family, with her parents, the way that they raised them, that is a distinctly, I think that's a distinctly Anglo it may not be uniquely Anglo, but it is very distinctly Anglo. This idea of the children and the parents sitting around the table and discussing matters of philosophy and being encouraged to go and study the arts, read all the ancient literature, and this is there's you don't see this sort of archetype of person all that often anymore. I don't think. I think they're basic. I think they're probably millennial. They're around 40, 45. I think she and her brother. Their sort of person. I think Tucker was actually raised fairly similarly in this sort of remnant of the American aristocracy, and but he's older. He's probably a good at least 10 years older than they are. So there's a very interesting class-based thing with her and her brother. You got a little hint of the potential. You could look at it as a downside, I suppose, or maybe the baggage that comes along with this new class of person who I think is ascendant politically in America. The spirituality. They're very spiritual. They read Rumi and Ayn Rand. It was funny to put those together. We'll get more to that here in just a minute. But this thing she said here to the doctors, if you're just there's lots of very good doctors, many very good doctors. There's many bad doctors who don't mean it. They're not trying to be bad doctors. They're just being doctors, and they're doing what they were trained to do, and they're not really like think outside the box sort of people. They just were sort of herded along the cattle trough into being a doctor and going to residency, do all this different stuff, and then starting their own practice, and they just go through the checklist of all the things you're supposed to do as a doctor. And then you've got the like legitimately demented evil people who want to be a doctor because they want to do nasty things, or they have power tripping complexes or whatever. You've got this point she's making. This would be directed at that middle category of people, the people who are well-meaning. They're just kind of going through the motions, being a doctor the way that they've been trained to be a doctor. But she's saying, if you are not interrogating this whole system and actually bearing your responsibility as someone who's going to help other people with something as fundamental as their health, then you are bankrolling on the problem, which is that's a hell of a phrase.
Are bankrolling on the problem.
Do you remember when Elon?
I honestly think you're going to change the world. I mean that. I mean that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just had to say that.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Oh, sorry. It's just your description of your parents is
It brings me to tears.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot wait to have children. There is no greater role. There is no greater role in this world. And, I was sold such a bill of lies, like climb the climb the medical ladder, become the chair of an institution. I can think of no greater thing that we can do than have children and keep them healthy.
Yes.
Right. And I just, up until a couple years ago, I didn't even want to have children because I thought it was a liability to this value system of just like rise the ranks, make money. But I don't think there's anything more important we could be doing than creating healthy children who are thinking for themselves, who are eating healthy food. And I cannot wait for that role. And I think it's a spiritual corruption of our society right now that we have forgotten that this is the most important thing that we can do. It's unbelievable how far off we are. And I think it is deeply a spiritual crisis because we have lost sight of what really matters in our lives.
Man, you were singing my song and much better than I ever could. So that is, sorry. So completely carried away.
I strongly encourage you go listen to the episode Tucker Carlson with Casey and Callie Means. I couldn't find a clip for this, and I didn't have time to sit down and clip it up for myself. But she has a long sort of a diatribe, I suppose, talking about the divine feminine and fertility, and connecting like the fertility of the soil and the fertility of the women. And that as we make the soil more and more infertile, we get more and more infertility in the women, and that there's like a vicious cycle in this. It was pretty beautiful and profound. And the idea that people who think like this are the ones who are now populating the medical establishment it's so diametrically directed away from the years of Deborah Birx and Anthony Fauci and such people. Now, I mean, as we'll get into here in a moment, there's going to be a new set of challenges, but we'll get to that here in just a sec. Here's her talking to Joe Rogan.
We are getting destroyed, and it's very recent, and it's accelerating. The stats speak for themselves. You know this very well. 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. 50% now of American adults have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. These were diseases where there was 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. Now it's 50% of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Alzheimer's, dementia are going through the roof.
My wife says, wait till her kid purposely farts on the dinner table. We're raising a feral beast masquerading as a young human boy.
Young adult dementias have increased like 3 times since 2012. So early onset dementias, we're seeing, this 1 in 2 Americans are expected to have cancer in their lifetime now. 1 in 2, and young adult cancers are going up 79% in the last 10 years. We've got, of course, the autism rates are absolutely astronomical. 1 in 36 children has autism now in the United States. That was 1 in 150 in the year 2000. And in California, where I live, it's 1 in 22. 1 in 22 with a lifetime neurodevelopmental disorder. We've got infertility going up 1% per year. 25% of men now under 4.
On the subject of autism, the thought is occurring to me now that I wonder to what extent the rise in autism is kind of like the Shiloh Hendricks kid that they're like, oh, he's autistic, and it was like, well, is he autistic or is he just stupid? Is he just like 55 IQ or something? Is he just? It's not autism. This is just some people, certain categories of people are just given over toward having behavioral characteristics that would be, if you're comparing like white people and non-white people, then a non-white person who has autism may end up having similar behavioral characteristics to so a white person who has autism may have similar behavioral characteristics to a non-white person who doesn't have autism. They're just dumb. You get this browning of America, all this importation of all of the third world foreigners in here, and they're all going to public schools, and they're all on Medicaid and getting federal benefits and everything. So they're going to the hospitals and having all their stuff be charted and stuff. How much of the rise in autism? I mean, I think there is a genuine rise in autism for environmental reasons, but I wonder how much of it is attributed to the fact that we've imported an underclass of people who are overwhelmingly, for a variety of selection effects, overwhelmingly going to have a tendency toward just basically being dumb.
40 have erectile dysfunction. A quarter of the country. This is fundamentally a metabolic disease. We've got 77% of young Americans can't serve in the military because of obesity or drug abuse. We've got autoimmune diseases. Some studies are saying they're going up 13% per year. It's really unbelievable. And I could go through so many more diseases. Of course, we've got heart disease, which is almost totally preventable as the leading cause of death in the United States, killing around 800,000 people per year. And I think as I kind of just looked around, and again, these are just statistics, I started trying to put the pieces together. Why is this happening? Why are these all going up all at once? And that led me on what is now a 7-8 year journey, ultimately leaving the surgical world, putting down my scalpel forever. Because what I realized is that when you go to the science with a root cause perspective, you go back to PubMed with a slightly different perspective, not how do I treat these diseases once they emerge, but why are they happening? You see a very obvious blaring answer, which is why we had to write a book about it, which is that it's all caused by metabolic dysfunction, a term that I never learned in medical school.
Having a surgeon general who even knows the phrase metabolic dysfunction is a massive, massive white pill.
Well, I learned about metabolic syndrome and the different individual diseases that make it up, but there is a problem. There is a fundamental breaking of our core cellular biology that is caused by our diet and the world we're living in, the modern world we're living in today, that is crushing the very way that the human body and our human cells can transmit food energy to life energy, to cellular energy. And so our bodies are essentially, fundamentally, because metabolic health is how we make energy in the body, the way that our environment is now synergistic to restoring our metabolic health, and the science is very clear about this, it's basically like all of us are a little bit dead while we're alive. That's what metabolic dysfunction is. It's less energy in the body. We're underpowered. And that's very dark. Like when you step back and say, okay, this is clear from the research, and I never learned it. I didn't learn it at Stanford Medical School. I didn't learn it in my surgical residency. And we could fix it. We could fix it really quickly if we all popped up and woke up and looked at the data and put pieces together. But of course, we're not trained to connect dots. That's not our job in medicine. We are trained to follow algorithms and to be reactive. And so I think, just to sort of kind of back up to the bigger picture of why we're so passionate about this, I think that the reason there's a MAHA movement, the reason that people are so passionate about your podcast that talks about this so much, people know that something's not right. And people know that this health issue is the tip of the iceberg of what's actually happening in our world today.
Listening to Joe breathe in the background. It's interesting. She comments on basically just being like your job as a doctor is not to know or study or research any of these things, but just to basically like follow algorithms. There's just like formulas, prescriptive formulas, almost literally prescriptive formulas. And yeah, woke right. Oh no. Well played, Isaac. One of the things that is with things like Grok and ChatGPT, people identified really early on that they're going to completely revolutionize medicine. And I suspect within the next couple of decades, the whole medical profession is going to get revolutionized. And it's inevitable that people are going to depend more and more upon AI tools for identifying and managing their own health. There's AI tools. You've got like the biofeedback technology, like Apple Watches and such things. There's all people who are all these. There's a rising culture of people who are managing their own health this way, and adding in things like Grok and stuff for diagnostic purposes is going to be. You're not going to keep people away from that. They're going to go that way naturally. And the doctors who are most successful are probably going to be the ones who are able to build up their own practice, explicitly incorporating Grok or ChatGPT or what have you. I'm sure they're going to create medical specific agents. They have to populate their own databases with medical specific information, that sort of thing. That's going to get really transformed. And I think the role of a doctor, the role of the actual, because the AI tools are going to be so much better at diagnosing things, it's going to free the doctor up to not have to spend as much time diagnosing, which means there's going to be I think a natural force that's going to draw the good doctors in the direction of leaning on these tools for diagnostics and being able to dedicate a lot more of their time and their effort and energy toward not just the simple treat disease with pill and I'm a pill dispenser sort of role that they occupy right now. There's always going to be shitty doctors. There's always going to be corruption in these sorts of industries. But I think the introduction of AI is going to sort of serve multiple purposes. One is going to be that people are going to be able to diagnose their own stuff a lot easier, which will naturally reduce reliance on the medical system. This is not medical advice, I suppose. Maybe I need to say that. Do I need to protect myself? But it also, I think, is gonna create. It's gonna open up a vector that will allow good doctors to be even better. This is, let's see. Yeah, well, let's play this next clip. There's some overlap between this one and the last one, but then there's some other things that she gets into in this that are. I think we've languished in this state of the healthcare industry for a long time, but the rise of MAHA is a legitimate political thing. I think there's a lot of the MAHA people are going to wind up being I think a lot of them politically are generally more IDW wired, sort of. You're going to get a lot of the spiritual but not religious, and I think that's going to be. I've predicted in the past. I think that the future of American politics is going to be something like MAGA versus MAHA, and the MAHA is going to be more of the. It's going to retain much more of the shit liberty to it. But I do think that they're going to have a legitimate positive impact in the way that they sort of rattle the healthcare establishment off of its existing foundation and there's a lot of Silicon Valley tech overlap with the MAHA people, and so they're going to be bringing in the technological innovation side into the medical realm more. And just on net, it's of all of the different things, I think the MAHA part of the agenda is going to be one of the biggest benefits of the Trump administration. It's also going to, I think, we're going to see the benefits of it quicker than people expect.
You would think that the American healthcare system and our government agencies would be clamoring to fix metabolic health and reduce American suffering and costs, but they're not. They are deafeningly silent about metabolic dysfunction and its known causes. It's not an overstatement to say that I learned virtually nothing at Stanford Medical School about the tens of thousands of scientific papers that elucidate these root causes of why American health is plummeting and how environmental factors are causing it. For instance, in medical school, I did not learn that for each additional serving of ultra-processed food we eat, early mortality increases by 18%. This now makes up 67% of the foods our kids are eating. I took 0 nutrition courses in medical school. I didn't learn that 82% of independently funded studies show harm from processed food, while 93% of industry-sponsored studies reflect no harm. In medical school, I didn't learn that 95% of the people who created the recent USDA food guidelines for America had significant conflicts of interest with the food industry. I did not learn that 1 billion pounds of synthetic pesticides are being sprayed on our food every single year. 99% of the farmland in the United States is sprayed with synthetic pesticides, many from China and Germany. And these invisible, tasteless chemicals are strongly linked to autism, ADHD, sex hormone disruption, thyroid disease, sperm dysfunction, Alzheimer's, dementia, birth defects, cancer, obesity, liver dysfunction, female infertility, and more, all by hurting our metabolic health. I did not learn that the 8 billion tons of plastic that have been produced just in the last 100 years, plastic was only invented about 100 years ago, are being broken down into microplastics that are now filling our food, our water, and we are now even inhaling them in our air.
What was the meme I saw recently? It was my grandfather. It was like the grandfather had lead poisoning, and then the father had asbestos poisoning, and I have microplastics in my balls.
And that very recent research from just the past couple of months tells us that now about 0.5% of our brains by weight are now plastic. I didn't learn that there are more than 80,000 toxins that have entered our food, water, air, and homes by industry, many of which are banned in Europe. And they are known to alter our gene expression, alter our microbiome composition and the lining of our gut, and disrupt our hormones.
Isn't it interesting that, speaking of the divides between Europe and the United States, isn't it interesting that Europe has not fallen prey to so many of these things regarding environmental toxins? Europe has been able to pass all of these laws and restrictions preventing people from using all these various different toxic substances and pesticides and all this sort of thing. But America does not have that privilege. No, we have to get all the toxins. We have to get all the pesticides, all the plastics, all the dyes. We get all of it. We're not allowed to have laws regulating such things. You know, we have our free market or something like that. But Europe does. Again, such a strange empire.
We didn't learn that heavy metals like aluminum and lead are present in our food, our baby formula, personal care products, our soil, and many of the mandated medications like vaccines, and that these metals are neurotoxic and inflammatory. I didn't learn that the average American walks a paltry 3,500 steps per day, even though we know, based on science and top journals, that simply walking 7,000 steps a day slashes by 40 to 60% our risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and obesity. I certainly did not learn that medical error and medications are the third leading cause of death in the United States. I didn't learn that just 5 nights of sleep deprivation can induce full-blown prediabetes. I learned nothing about sleep, and we're getting about 20% less sleep on average than we were 100 years ago. I didn't learn that American children are getting less time outdoors now than a maximum security prisoner. And on average, adults spend 93% of their time indoors, even though we know from the science that separation from sunlight destroys our circadian biology, and circadian biology dictates our cellular biology. I didn't learn that professional organizations that we get our practice guidelines
I'm a white
from,
guy,
like
and
the
I'm ready to
American
kill.
Diabetes Association and American Academy of Pediatrics, have taken tens of millions of dollars from Coke, Cadbury, processed food companies, and vaccine manufacturers like Moderna. I didn't learn that if we address these root causes that all lead to metabolic dysfunction and help patients change their food and lifestyle patterns with united, strong voice, we could reverse the chronic disease crisis in America, save millions of lives and trillions of dollars in healthcare costs per year. Instead, doctors are learning that the body is 100 separate parts, and we learn how to drug, we learn how to cut, and we learn how to bill. I'll close by saying that what we are dealing with here is so much more than a physical health crisis. This is a spiritual crisis. We are choosing death over light. We are choosing death over life. We are choosing darkness over light for people and the planet, which are inextricably linked. We are choosing to erroneously believe that we are separate from nature and that we can continue to poison nature and then outsmart it. Our path out will be a renewed respect for the miracle of life and a renewed respect for nature. We can restore health to Americans rapidly with smart policy and courageous leadership. We need a return to courage. We need a return to common sense and intuition. We need a return to awe for the sheer miraculousness of our lives. We need all hands on deck. Thank you.
She's very demonstrative, very, she's got the hand motion, she's got the face motions down. Mark Metz here says in the chat that apparently Nicole Shanahan is not a fan of the Mean siblings. He says, my biggest issue with him is that the dude's name is Callie. Good point, yes. It's interesting, I did not know that. I apparently haven't been keeping up with my MAHA drama enough, so I need to get caught up. If you can, tell me why, if it's easy, why it is that she's not a fan of them. There's definitely, there's I'm sitting here listening and I'm very interested in what she's saying, but the vocal fry is way more noticeable listening on 1X than it is on 2X. And so the vocal fry is kind of like, I gotta sit there and kind of grin and bear it on my way through it. But speaking objectively, though, having healthcare leadership or leadership within the healthcare industry that talk about things like the microbiome and metabolic dysfunction and the environmental toxins and talking about the synergistic or the symbiotic relationship that the human beings have with their environment. This is all very it's a breath of fresh air. Phil Gibson says, Matt, explain how MAGA and MAHA would be at odds with each other. MAHA fights against the same corrupt incentives that MAGA does. Wouldn't there be a Schelling point between the factions? When I say that they're, I see that as them being in opposition. It's not strictly the MAGA and MAHA political movements themselves, but sort of the cultural vibes around them. And I think that MAHA, the cultural cachet that the MAHA people have, there's a lot of penetration into the wealthy white people world, because that's kind of the archetypal Instagram mom who is relatively like the higher part of middle class, like upper middle class. She's a stay-at-home mom. The dad like owns a construction business or something like that. They're not necessarily like dyed in the wool, Republican, the common people of the earth. They're sort of LARPing this more liberal, aristocratic kind of lifestyle, but they live in the suburban neighborhood. I'm sort of visualizing that type of person who may not really want to be associated with the chuds. They still sort of hold on to that like urbane, cosmopolitan, and they're going to be like, oh, we're classical liberals. I think that's where the opposition really is going to formalize around the IDW types. That's going to be, I think, what the new formal opposition to MAGA is going to be. So, and if I was a Machiavellian person or group of persons within the Trump administration, I would be actually trying to promote that, trying to create like sort of retain some of the MAHA stuff, but sort of export it into this new opposition party apparatus. So it's like explicitly controlled opposition. So I think, let's see here. Is this the last? Yeah. Okay. So this story, this clip here, I think is, you've seen a few hints from some of the stuff that she said so far, but in this one, you get number one, Surgeon General is talking about unnecessary medical interventions being made in the birth process, and that is just massively heartening. But there's one particular phrase that she says in this that you guys will likely pick up on immediately, but I will comment on after I play this 40-second clip. Oops. I forgot that I changed the scene. First time doing it on Streamlabs now. All right, here we go.
And then we are drugged for life. You look at what's happening in children. A child born in a hospital in the United States today, within hours of coming from source into this, into this body, the first thing that happens to them is pharmaceutical intervention. Without really asking, there's barely informed consent about this. That child's eyes are smeared with erythromycin ointment, and they're given a hepatitis B vaccine in their first day of life. And what are these two things for? I mentioned this because it's just emblematic of how we're put on the pharma treadmill from the moment we are born in this country. And then we
beautiful point. This is something that has been close to my heart ever since my son was born. And I went through he was born at home, and my wife and I spent a lot of time learning about the whole birth process, and particularly all the different interventions and stuff that are, it's the whole thing is, I could get my wife on here to just rant about it. It is just downright criminal what they do to the vast majority of moms whose bodies are literally designed. This is the core function of their body, is to deliver babies, and it's treated like a medical condition. It's treated like a sickness that has to be treated and managed, and you have to purge this invader as quickly as possible, and it's absolutely awful. So to have the Surgeon General, the incoming Surgeon General, be someone who this is something close to her heart and she can speak to it it's so good. Now, I'm sure you guys caught the little phrase there that the child just came from source. if you do a little bit of reading up on Dr. Casey Means, I saw someone in there in the chat had mentioned the crystal hose. She is very crystal hoe adjacent. Also, we'll say that. And I say this with great respect and admiration. I think she's great. She also is very much like spiritual but not religious. And this, we're seeing a transition. Everyone thinks, okay, everything's really bad in this way, so we need to get things to stop being bad this way, and the inevitable trajectory has to be going toward just the good thing, and then everything will be all, we can dust our hands and move on with it. However, what we're going to get is something that is it's not bad per se. There's the current medical system, the current approach to the human body and to medicine and to health is this like hyper materialistic version that we have right now. There's definitely lots of benefits to it. The like scientific research and the whole the technological process, the incorporation of technology into the medical process, and like they go way too overboard, but there are good things to it. So you get the good thing and you get the bad thing. We're gonna get the opposite. We're getting a look at the future here. The spiritual but not religious people are going to be putting their best foot forward, and we're going to get much more. We've been on the over materialistic side. We're going to get the over spiritualistic side. This is going to be part of the zeitgeist. I think we're transitioning into that point. So I mean, it could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't know, but eventually we're going to look back and we're going to see we spent time with this super rigid, rationalistic, materialistic approach to health. We're going to do away with a lot of the rigid materialism, but what's going to replace it is it's not like just a natural, wholesome Christian view of the world is just going to organically rise up to replace it. That's our responsibility. So if you spend too much time honed in on this particular enemy or this particular, I don't even want to frame it as an enemy necessarily, but this particular deficit, you'll get blindsided by the new one, the new boss that shows up on the scene that's going to attack from a different vector. So I want to be clear that I'm not saying that I think that the MAHA movement is some negative subversive thing. I think this is if you have like a historic perspective at the cycling generations of people and the different sociological factors at play, you just recognize that this is inevitable. We've spent a while in the hyper materialistic, rationalistic ditch, and the next ditch that we're going to veer into collectively as a species is going to be the Gnostic mysticism thing. And there's probably some symbology here with like the center of the world sort of moving to the east with the rise of China. And, we're going from the center of the world being in the Atlantic over to the Pacific. And in a sense, that's sort of moving east. So anyways, I think I think you have to be able to kind of hold two thoughts at once, which is, yes, this is very good that we're making, we're moving in a positive direction with our approach to science and health, in the sense that we're moving away from the rigid, rationalistic materialism, but recognize that there's going to be a new set of potential, hurdles, downfalls, opportunities for downfall that are going to be in the opposite direction. Because this is what humans always do. We're always going to overcorrect one way, then we overcorrect back the other, and then we overcorrect back the other way again. And you're starting to see it. You're going to get a lot of you can even see this with like Nicole Shanahan herself. She has her like Jews for Jesus thing. And she speaks in a lot of the same very mystical sort of ways. And I think if you want to think in like social media terms here, this is sort of like the Tumblr people, who some of the Tumblr people grew up and got like completely deranged and psychopathic, and then some of them grew up and just became like sort of nice normies, but they retained a lot of that the spiritualistic sort of mysticism and astrology girls and like or horoscope girls and that sort of thing. Anyways, let's see. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, okay. So but this basically just an excuse to play this to play this video. But there's this whole thing going on with Dave Portnoy, who is just this. I just find him amusing. It amuses me when people get really wrapped around the axle about Dave Portnoy, because like, if you haven't figured out what Dave Portnoy is at this point, this guy. I'll just read this thing. This was tweeted out from his account for immediate release. Team Portnoy. This past weekend at the Barstool Sansom Street Bar in Philadelphia, a "Fuck the Jews" bottle sign was brought out to a table and then proudly posted to the internet by a 21-year-old anti-Semitic moron named Mo Khan. The video, posted by Mo Khan, gained traction across social media and various news outlets. When Dave Portnoy saw the video, which was posted by Mo Khan, he was understandably quite angry. For those unaware, Barstool Sports is a company owned by Portnoy. The video was uploaded from the Barstool Sansom Street Bar, and Portnoy is Jewish, so it's safe to say this story hits a bit close to home for him. The two idiot bottle girls who brought the sign out were promptly fired the next day. One was inconveniently fired while she was watching a dance recital. We hope she was able to enjoy the rest of the performance. But as for the people who ordered and posted the sign, the media mogul opted for a different route. The media mogul. He called up Mo Khan, the guy who posted the video, and his idiot friend. On the call, they both cried their eyes out, but ultimately accepted responsibility for their hateful actions. So Portnoy, always known to be the bigger man and never one to hold grudges, opted to use this as a learning experience for the young men. He generously offered to give them a trip to Europe, to the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland, so that they could reflect on their actions and hopefully come out as better men. See, when you do something that displeases a Jew, they're going to send you to Auschwitz. But in the days that have passed, things have changed. First, some wackadoo journalist for 6 ABC in Philadelphia tried to blame Portnoy himself for this incident. Portnoy, as a reminder, is Jewish. And then Mo Khan, the poster of the video, tried to distance himself from all responsibility, ran to his parents, who must be lovely people, and is now trying to play the victim and raise money for himself through a video statement where he poorly tried to read a PR statement, likely made by ChatGPT. He also made a quick pit stop at what appeared to be some Third Reich nightly news show, where the host also hates Muslims. As a fan of good entertainment, I'm just going to say I am very entertained. So to quickly recap, Mo Khan posts video of a "Fuck the Jews" sign at the Barstool bar. Portnoy, the Jewish owner of Barstool, sees the video. He is a bit upset. He calls Khan, who takes responsibility. Portnoy offers Khan the chance to make things right by educating himself on the history of anti-Semitism across the world. Khan accepts, but then days later he changes his mind and decides he's a victim who now needs to be sent Solana. While Mo's apology may win him some made-up awards nobody cares about at Harvard or Columbia. This, unfortunately, is the real world. A world where Mo Khan is an anti-Semitic grifting piece of shit who deserves an awful life. A world where hate has no place. A world where Portnoy is a great man. There's so much here. There's so much here. It's incredible. So let's see. How many different... This is like a circular firing squad here. So you have degenerate Jew, frat boy, short king, Dave Portnoy. He is mad at a 21-year-old brown guy. The 21-year-old brown guy wants to do the whole, I'm going to create a GoFundMe and get paid because some guy tried to cancel me. In the course of writing this, Mo's apology may win him some made-up awards nobody cares about at Harvard or Columbia. So Harvard and Columbia are catching strays here. And what else? Wackadoo journalists. So journalists are catching strays as well. This is just, they're all just chimping at each other. And I just get to sit here and watch them and laugh and laugh and laugh. The two idiot bottle girls. He's decided he's a victim who needs to be sent Solana. There's so many good lines in this. This is fantastic, fantastic entertainment. And then, of course, Norm Poster always ready for always going to drop a strong banger. He delivered just absolute chef's kiss. The perfect clip for the moment.
Is this about that horrible thing? The
Holocaust?
Holocaust, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Mercedes Carrera about the
6
Holocaust.
million. The 6 million.
When I was a punk rocker, by the way,
6 million. There were 6 million of them. It was 6 million.
Is this about that?
Gavin trying to go on with the show, and he realizes, oh, okay, we're doing a whole thing now, huh? Okay, all right. He just sits there. My wife brings up a very good point that we need to dwell on for a moment here. Let me get my new tab. This one here. Note, Dave Portnoy. This is something people have noticed every time he takes a picture with someone out in public. Come on. Load, page, load. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, I'm not going to be able to make the picture big. You can see it here. Whenever he takes these pictures, he's very self-conscious about his height. So he's always getting up on his tippy toes. Here's another one. Our lovely little short king. So 9mm SMG here. This is Dave Portnoy talking about this guy's legal fund. Mohammed Khan, stand against trial by public opinion. Support a Temple student's fight for due process and redemption. This is one of those where you just let him fight. 9mm SMG says what Dave is witnessing is the Shiloh effect. People realize they could just destroy cancel culture by supporting anyone who has been canceled over words. Had he just said, what a dick, this would have been over already. Could have told the waitresses to never allow that again. Instead, he went on a Robert De Niro and the Untouchables diatribe about vengeance, etc. Then he settled on sending people to Auschwitz. Now all the people involved are going to end up with a lot of money. It's the Shiloh effect and Streisand effect playing out simultaneously. Truly wild to watch. Looking at it all without bias, sometimes people don't like each other. It happens. Making a big deal out of it just accelerates how much people don't like each other. I don't know why people don't understand that. The Shiloh situation, had he not filmed and posted it, would have gone like this. F you, slur. No, F you, slur. Then all parties involved never would have received a penny, and everyone would have gone about their lives. Now, Shiloh can afford a Lamborghini Revuelto if she wants one, turned a burning candle into a five-alarm fire. And I think this fact, the guy goes and he creates this, I don't even think there's any, like he's trying to get a support legal fund. There's no legal issue here. So he's just trying to fundraise off of this. I think that this whole, what's his name? Brain is starting to wind down here. You got Shiloh Hendricks, and then you had Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony. I can't believe I couldn't remember it. The whole Carmelo Anthony thing, followed by the Shiloh Hendricks, the two dueling GoFundMes, has permanently changed cancel culture altogether. It's and frankly, I think from a game theory perspective, it's actually probably going to be for the better. Even though I think we're probably going to get some escalation in the short term. In the long run, it's going to be for the better. Where are we at here? We're at 2.5 hours. I planned to read this Substack here from John Carter, stripping the word of its power. Language taboos die when people stop being afraid of them. It's a very good one. It's also kind of long. So you guys tell me here in the chat right now. What time is it? It's 11:45. You tell me. Should we keep going and I read this, or should we just wrap it now and I'll save this for another episode. If you guys are down for me reading a long thing here, then I will do that. There's a few other things. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that and a couple of other longer posts that I was going to get into. This show went longer than I expected it would. So I'm going to save the reading of that and a couple of these other things. And I'm going to do this. Let's talk about this, and then this. Come on. Sorry, I'm trying to move tabs over here just so I have them organized so that I can save them for later. I can post them on the King Pilled Substack once we get finished. So I'm going to read, I'll read that article about stripping the word of its power. Obviously, you know what word he's talking about. We'll talk about that on another show. But I want to share this thing. We'll finish up with this this Kanye West story. So I don't know if you guys have heard Kanye's new song. There's a there's a very interesting aspect to this story that I want to touch on here. And I know there's a lot of people who really don't like Kanye. I personally have gone through times where I really like him, and I think ultimately I do like him. I haven't been a big fan, obviously, of the turn that he's taken recently, but I must confess that Jesus is King is an absolutely phenomenal album. And Kanye is the ultimate jester. He is the court jester. Like, that's his role, and you have to understand the significance of him playing that role. Because I think anybody who talks about him being insane or him being a mental patient or him being retarded or whatever, it's like, yeah, sure, all of those things are true, but those just reinforce the fact that he is genuinely a generational jester in the terms of the social role that he plays. So his job is, this is a valuable role in every society. His job is to break the taboos. That's what he's doing. He is breaking taboos. And he has there's a reason he's been as successful as he is, because he genuinely does know how to produce art that just has something about it that just grabs you. You could dislike it, you could be indifferent to it, but it still will affect you. It'll still hit you and make an impact on you. He's genuinely I think he's legitimately autistic, and his autism is his ability to play in the world of symbols and vibes. This is his terrain. This is his particular gift that he's had. And so this recent song that he has produced is I'm going to play something that has it in it, but I'm going to play a clean version of it first. Not clean, but where the audio is better, so you guys can hear it, and then we'll discuss. So this is from The Conversation, so obviously a Kanye fan account. Energy I'm on forever when HH drops. So this is his new song, HH.
All of the money and fame, I still don't get to see my children. Niggas see my Twitter, but they don't see how I be feeling. Swap the game and I see it, bitch. I'm the nigga, how
So that hook there is this is I don't care what you think about Kanye. This is musical genius. This is how you use music to this is how you use music to embed yourself in somebody's I don't know, medulla oblongata. Embedding a hook like this is, number one, you hear it and it's going to be stuck in your head. And then taking these two words, or I guess a word and a phrase, putting nigga Heil Hitler next to each other is so absurd that you're taking two utterances that are completely taboo in particular ways, and they have a relationship to one another, and you're slamming them together and attaching it to an earworm of a hook. To where now there's no way, being Kanye West and producing a thing with a hook that says nigga Heil Hitler, there's no way that it's not going to absolutely go viral. Everyone is going to hear it one way or another. They're going to hear nigga Heil Hitler over and over and over again. It's going to get stuck in their head. It's going to play in their head. And so here's Kanye talking about it, and you can hear inside, so granted, he's He's off his nut completely. He's a crazy person. And yet, he has an instinctive sense of how to play the jester role, and he's doing it self-consciously, self-awarely, and he describes that here.
The song got to be big as fuck. But niggas gonna know it. Like, motherfuckers get on the elevator with a motherfucker, do it like, oh, yeah.
All my niggas Nazis, nigga Heil Hitler. And what he's saying there is a little hard to hear, and he's speaking black person, so I will be the translator for you. He said you're gonna get guys who like get on the elevator together, and they're humming that hook to themselves, and it's such a distinct hook. The intervals, the way that it's placed together, it's immediately recognizable. 3 notes played together, immediately going to be recognizable. It's going to be iconic. Where this hook that he just wrote is going to stick in people's brains no matter what they think about it. And it's driving directly at the heart of 2 massive colliding taboos. So Milo, who obviously himself says some history with Kanye, and who has the same sort of jester instincts as Kanye. They play very similar roles. And any sort of like, oh, he's gay, he's degenerate, he likes to do drugs, he is like any sort of thing like that, where you identify his like transgressiveness or his degeneracy or whatever. Yes, that's the point. You are recognizing the jester. These are the things that make these guys the jester. He says, some of you are still struggling with the concept of nigga Heil Hitler, so here are some listening notes. Grape victims torture themselves with safe spaces and trigger warnings, which actually prolong and worsen trauma. What they need is exposure therapy. America is traumatized too, in the grip of taboos cooked up in the 1960s and 70s. The only way to break free is continuous heavy fire, draining so-called hate symbols of their power. Ye is anti-fragile and uncancelable, and one of maybe 2 or 3 people on the planet who can put a stop to these toxic, boring, and flaming gifts and go wars. Kind of like in one of the superhero movies where someone has to be strong enough to hold the fizzling, sparkling, exploding alien energy source as it goes supernova, and everyone lives. What I see in Ye's artistic project now is perhaps the most ambitious thing he's ever done, which is take on these gigantic traumas and taboos from the past that have us all captive, tear them off the wall, and smash them on the ground. And that, to me, is what he has always done with his music, made people more free to be themselves. This march Ye has been on for 20 years is in the direction of absolute self-determination, complete artistic control, and total freedom from other people's rules and systems and ways of doing things. It's not just in the words and music. If you've been watching the streams, you've seen Ye on the same quest when it comes to production, distribution, and marketing. He's reinventing how to release music, sacrificing millions in sales to use his art as the vessel for these experiments. It all adds up to something simple, coherent, and powerful, the message that has kept Ye relevant with young people for 25 years. As Rage Against the Machine put it, fuck you, I won't do what you told me. This war will be won peacefully. Not one human soul has ever been harmed, and never mind killed, because someone listened to a Ye album or watched a Ye interview. It's never happened. You can't even say that about Ariana Grande. Clearly the fans, the people, are hearing something completely different to TV hosts whose networks are owned by people allergic to criticism. When you hear nigga Heil Hitler, you may be hung up on the Hitler bit, or you just think it's asinine. But there's something funny and weird and beautiful and new about smashing those 2 alien worlds together and putting an insanely catchy hook underneath it that brings people joy and brings out companionship. Every club in LA had that moment this weekend where no one knew if it was okay, and then the whole house came down in laughter and catharsis. Think about that. Clubs in LA playing Kanye West singing Nigga Heil Hitler in 2025. This is 2025 America. It's hard to imagine a more perfect illustration of draining hate symbols of their potency. And just imagine what a better world we will live in when every interaction with others is free of the specter of fake offense-taking, slavery, and the Holocaust. And the psychos who've used those things to censor and hurt others while committing atrocities themselves, from the 2020 riots to genocide in Gaza, will be back where they belong, powerless and sad, oy veying in the next room. Nowhere in Ye's body of work do you find hate. If you're sincerely concerned about hate, start by admitting that everything tried by the global elites hasn't just failed, it's pushed people in the other direction. Bullying, censorship, cancel culture, all backfired. What if the answer to hate is more hate? Or at least letting people think and say and investigate wild and dangerous things. Likewise, if you're a Jew in a Western country concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism, the people you need to be lecturing are in Tel Aviv. Ye is a powerful and influential man, but there's nothing he could do to foment Jew hatred that comes close to Israel's actions and its sociopathic pleasure in them after the fact. Your power to rule us and trap us in a pagan hell of magic spells like nigger and kike is coming to an end. 100 years of freedom is coming. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap. Nigga Heil Hitler. All my homies say nigga Heil Hitler. That's what happens. You can just say things now. I'm here on YouTube. We'll see how long this episode stays up. This is a test. YouTube, are you going to allow me to quote a popular song? I'm just quoting it. These are just song lyrics. I could say it when it's in a song, right? All right, guys. I appreciate you. Do me a favor and hit the like button on your way out. Reminder, tomorrow it will be Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo with Jason Miranchuk. And I believe that we're going to be taking on some of the woke right stuff with James Lindsay and such, but I'll confirm with him absolutely for sure tomorrow. I know he was going to be streaming tonight talking about it a little bit, so I'm going to be going to listen to that now that I'm wrapping up here. So, as I said, do me a favor, hit the like button. Thank you for the super chats, the tips that you guys sent through here today. Very much appreciated. It's helps to keep this going. And if you would like to donate, there's also buymeacoffee.com and Cash App. Links are in the description. And reminder, go over to the King Pilled Substack and subscribe over there. There will be a good, there'll be all the links that I went through today there, and pushes it out to the podcast platforms. And if you're listening to the audio version of this on your podcatcher of choice, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you, then do me a favor and leave me a 5-star rating and review. And I'll be back tomorrow, not with the Labe, but with Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo, the ASTROLABE, as Slutty Milk calls it. So until then, I leave you guys with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero,